Redditors who worked on shows like My Strange Addiction or Strange Sex on TLC, what submissions did you get that were too weird for TV? Oh man, this has turned into a poop thread. I once did a hut trip in Colorado in the winter time. At the hut we stayed at there was only an outdoor toilet and the poop would stack up in the toilet and freeze. It was called the poopsicle and there were directions to chip the poopsicle down if it got too high. I worked at a ski area when I was in college. My friend and I were assigned to the rope tow. The motor that ran the rope tow was in a shack on posts about 20 above the ground. Well, the walk to the closest bathroom was about 400 YDS, so whenever we had to take a leak, we'd just go in the corner of the motor shed through a small hole. By the end of the year, a giant 6-foot-tall yellow icicle formed near the little hole. It was quite the spectacle and everyone commented on its size and hue. I work in insurance and not totally relatable, but I've seen some awful hoarders' houses. I don't go to home but process images and documents. We kept asking this one woman for proof of repairs for a water leak she'd fixed, and finally when she sent photos she sent me a picture of her foot zoomed in on the carpet. She literally emailed me angrily asking how I liked her nail polish because that's all I'd get. I told her as professionally as I could that I need a picture of the fixed leak. She finally and unhappily sent it. The room looked like a nuke of clutter and crap went off. The center of the room was bare but the walls were lined up with all sorts of mess. Kind of like how the center of a meteor impact is empty but things built higher up the further away they get from the hole. The carpet was gross. There was a litter box full of kitty litter and poop with baby shoes and kids' toys around and in it. Needless to say, her policy was not renewed. Once a woman sent us porn mixed in with cell photos of her new shower. She tried to blame it on her husband but she wasn't married. It was photos of several naked women in that same shower. Whoa, reading some of these makes me sad. My godmother was on one of these shows. Her hoarding is over the top, as in she is the world record holder of most unique pieces of Mickey Mouse memorabilia, but at least her shit is clean, organized and cocoonless. Obligatory, not a crew member but a guy from the town my parents' summer home was on an episode of Hoarders to get his 15 minutes of fame. He's had interviews with Playboy, GQ, and Elle. Think he was on The View. His name is Randy for those of you who are curious. I feel like if that town has any unsolved murders we have the suspect. I ran into the guys from Strange Sex that was still a virgin. He was a decent looking, blonde guy. Ran into him at a bar in San Diego. I worked as an assistant to the producer for My Strange Addiction. We'd mostly go out and find people that would be interesting for the show, but occasionally we got submissions. Some random ones were a man that was addicted to Hillary Duff. Like literally had to listen to the Duff all the time, and a woman who had to make fart noises before every meal. Felt sorry for one guy who couldn't stop eating his hair to the point of balding, so he had to get hair from other areas. AFHV submission. Open on a field. You hear a man say okay run. A 8-year-old kid sprints into frame. You hear a motor start and a engine rev up. Here comes dad on the ATV. He hits the kid, knocking him down pretty hard. The kid seemed okay but shaken. Dad laughs. Video is sent to the police in the area of the return address. Well, on hoarding. Buried alive, we couldn't show the hoarder's giant sanitary pad cocoon on TV, and we've passed on great characters because they had too much poop in their home. Difficult to get field teams to film when we had knowledge of the poop beforehand. What kind of person has a huge struggle in their life and decides, you know what, I think I want all this filmed and shown to the whole country? I really don't get it. In my personal experience, depression makes me feel like I'm incompetent and unable to do the most basic things it would take to get better. The idea of someone else semi-forcibly dragging me out of the pit is actually quite appealing. There's an urge to have an outside force, no matter how exploitative and manipulative, driving me to change my life. Since I lack the self-assurance to make those changes for myself, therapy and psychiatry are much gentler and easier to ignore than a team of producers and an audience of millions watching, judging, and holding you accountable. The gas-sniffing lady on My Strange Addiction. My wife used to date the brother of the lady's boyfriend. She watched the show and knew immediately that his name was Frank. Said that whole family was f***ed up. I once cut a one-off reality documentary special about this Z-list celebutante who had once been well off. but now was just a sad joke. The executive producer at the channel said we can't show any of the piles of dog shit or the dildos that were strewn all around the floors of her apartment, because it was supposed to look glamorous. Hey, former casting director for My Strange Addiction here. Generally, what you have seen on the show is about the weirdest we get, because the weirder it is, the better it is for TV and ratings. Right. The only submissions we are generally banned from showing, for obvious reasons, are sex submissions. And I have a weird-ass story to tell you guys about that. So, in a legitimate application for My Strange Addiction, there was this guy who was addicted to sharp shit with his dick. So if you guys don't know, the application involves posting a photo denoting your strange addiction plus a blurb on it. And this guy sent me an application. The photo was him a beef thermometer. Yup. Pictures and everything. Best way to describe it without bringing back trauma is the beef thermometer penetrated where a person usually pisses and comes. Yeah. Anyways, in his blurb describing his addiction, I quote that he said, "I have a sexy addiction to passionately have sex with sharp objects. Anything really. Anything that can go through my piss hole. I will hard." This guy was up. The memory was vague, but he seemed to love how it felt up his dick. And I think he also had some weird passion to sharp objects. And yeah, that's my story. Wouldn't be surprised if he married a needle later. So what was the temperature? I knew a guy who wanted to be on the show because he had an enormous amount of Japanese weeaboo shit. I'm talking 20 plus body pillows. Dolls. Lowly body pillows. Dear Lord. We don't talk to Jerry often, but my god, when you do, you cringe. I dated a girl whose aunt and uncle were hoarders. They had an 800 square foot apartment that was literally full of random items the uncle had found on the street or bought from yard sales that he'd never use after he put it away. They slept on the couches because of how much shit was stored in the room. My girlfriend's room was okay because they cleaned it out, but in their large kitchen there was one path to the month-old dish-filled sink, then to the fossilized food-crusted refrigerator. The rest of the room was piled high with appliances, garbage, and like 4 litter boxes that they never emptied. They had 4 cats and 2 dogs. They eventually ended up leaving us the apartment in exchange for cleaning it out and doing repairs. I have never in my life smelled a stronger ammonia smell than when I was cleaning those litter boxes and cleaning out that house. I found dead mice, mold, and the most putrid stagnant water from under said month-old dish-filled sink. Before that, I'd never experienced a hoarder before, and after cleaning out that house I never want to experience one again. I have hoarding tendencies. I've been known to turn on those hoarder shows while cleaning my space just to remind myself, no, you don't need a bunch of empty soda cans. No, you don't need a bunch of tangled, nasty smelling yarn. You can keep the 100s of knitting needles but put them all in one place. My friend's ex worked as a researcher on a UK show called Snog, Marry, Avoid, where their job was essentially to look through FB for the most made-up and fake-looking awful messes of people. They'd invite them to be on a show, and those who agreed would go on a usual night out with the camera crew. There's more to the show about giving them a makeover with a proper stylist to show them how a natural look can make them look much better than their routine to the majority of people, etc., etc. But I'll stop here to point out that this one girl my friend's ex found went on the night out with the camera crew, naked. Literally no clothes. Just body paint to make it look like she was wearing something skin tight. They didn't show everything on TV, but apparently you could see everything. Not in the business per se, but my sister used to call into Maury and Springer with fake stories like, "I'm not sure if it's my uncle or my cousin who's the father, and yeah, I'm trying to get my mother off meth so she can tell me who my real daddy is." She'd regularly get callbacks.